I am continuing my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I'm reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a little bit as I move along. Right now, I am still reading about the final days of old Solomon. This is in chapter 11 of 1 Kings. We read the first part of chapter 11 in my previous video, and we are picking this up. Solomon is now turned to idol worship, or at least turned Israel to idol worship, and God has sworn to take the kingdom from him, or from his son. And now we see the consequences of this. I like this. Here we go. Verse 14 is where we're picking this up in. And the Lord stirred up an adversary unto Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was of the king's seed in Edom. For it came to pass, when David was in Edom, and Joab the captain of the host was gone up to bury the slain after he had smitten every male in Edom, for 6 months did Joab remain there with all Israel, until he had cut off every male in Edom, that Hadad fled, he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, to go into Egypt, Hadad being yet a little child. And they arose out of Midian, and came to Paran, and they took men with them out of Paran, and they came to Egypt unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, which gave him an house, and appointed him victuals, and gave him land. And Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so that he gave him to wife the sister of his own wife, the sister of Tahpenes, the queen. And the sister of Tahpenes bare him Genubath, his son, whom Tahpenes weaned in Pharaoh's house. And Genubath was in Pharaoh's household among the sons of Pharaoh. And when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab the captain of the host was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, Let me depart, that I may go to mine own country. Then Pharaoh said unto him, But what hast thou lacked with me, that, behold, thou seekest to go to thine own country? And he answered, Nothing. Howbeit let me go in any wise. So here's our first adversary to Solomon. And you'll see, this adversary was in the making from the time of David. David conquered Edom, slew at least most of the adult men, slew all the royal family, but Hadad escaped. He was a child at the time, and his servants fled with him into Egypt, where he was raised. And now he is coming back. Probably, see, Solomon reigned for 40 years. So Hadad probably came back to Edom, probably around the 10th year, or while the temple was being constructed. Sometime during the temple's construction, Hadad comes back. And he starts to consolidate his power in Edom, and he starts to be, and he gets enough, by the time Solomon is older, so in the 35th year of Solomon, Hadad now has enough power, enough influence in Edom to start being an adversary to Solomon, to start rising up in rebellion against Solomon. But this all started in the reign of David. God had this set up. God let Hadad he got it all set up so that if Solomon fell, if Solomon strayed, things would be in place. Now, if Solomon had been faithful, Hadad would not have gotten power to vex Israel. But because of Solomon's rebellion, Hadad is allowed to vex Israel. But let us continue here. Verse 23. And God stirred him up another adversary, Rezon, the son of Eliada, which fled from his lord Hadad-ezer, king of Zobah. And he gathered men unto him, and became captain over a band, when David slew them of Zobah. And they went to Damascus, and dwelt therein, and reigned in Damascus. And he was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon, beside the mischief that Hadad did. And he abhorred Israel, and reigned over Syria. So again, another adversary that has his origins during the time of David. Now, apparently this guy, Rezon, didn't flee into Egypt. He stayed in the area of his own place, and he built up a rebellious band and eventually gained power in the kingdom of Syria. But again, an adversary that was built up or had his origins during the time of David. And while he was there the entire time of Solomon, even Hadad seems to have been there for most of the time of Solomon, and they, as I said, they vexed him, right? He was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon. In Solomon's early years, he doesn't seem to have caused any serious problems. He was just a minor nuisance. But as Solomon starts to fall into his idol worship, now the power of both Hadad and Rezon are increased, and they become even more mischievous. They become more of an adversary. But let us continue, verse 26. And Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Zeredah, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built Millo, and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. In other words, Jeroboam is a high official in Solomon's administration. He's not in the court itself, but he's just below the royal court. He is over the house of Joseph. This is the land of Ephraim, the mountains of Ephraim, just north of Judah. So along the west coast, the western shore of Jordan, just north of Jerusalem, that's the land of Ephraim. That's where he would have been. Verse 29. And it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah, the Shilonite, found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him, and rent it in 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, Take thee 10 pieces, for thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, Behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. But he shall have 1 tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, because that they have forsaken me, and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways, to do that which is right in mine eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as did David his father. Let us pause there a moment. We got this prophecy here now. Now, it was, to clarify, it was Jeroboam wearing the new garment. He was just in Jerusalem. He probably just bought himself a new suit. And Ahijah comes over, rips it off his back, and shreds it up into 12 pieces. Great symbolism for the prophecy, although I think we could have done without the destruction of personal property. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. But I want to mention now, I forgot to mention in the beginning that we have Joseph Smith translations. What the Joseph Smith translation is, this is an inspired translation or correction of the Bible done by Joseph Smith to restore those portions that had been lost over the years. So, in verse 33 that we just read, it said, And have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in mine eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as did David his father. Joseph Smith corrects this. And have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in mine eyes, and my statutes and my judgments, and his heart is become as David his father. And he repenteth not, as did David his father, that I may forgive him. Now, I wanted to read that one specifically because I like that. This shows us what the difference between the two. Solomon starts to rebel, just like David did. David went into rebellion when he killed Uriah, when he had his affair with Bathsheba. But as soon as he was corrected by the prophet Nathan, David spent the rest of his life desperately trying to repent. And because of that, God promised David, your family will continue on the throne. You've lost your personal exaltation. There's nothing I can do about that. But I will bless your family. David got that blessing. Solomon is being told here, well, Jeroboam is being told that Solomon, he's gone away just like David. He fell away like David. But unlike David, Solomon does not repent. And so God cannot bless him. Now, there are some other Joseph Smith translations, as we will see, but let us read here first. Wrong page. Let us continue this. We are on verse 34. Howbeit I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. And unto his son will I give 1 tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen me to put my name there. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shalt be king over Israel. Let us pause there. Let us finish this out. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and wilt walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee, and I will for this afflict the seed of David, but not forever. Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt unto Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. So let us look at this Joseph Smith translation. We read verse 33. There are corrections for 34. Wrong one. There are corrections for 34, 35, 37, and 38, and 39. So only verse 36 is not corrected. So we have in 34, David my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. Correction, whom I chose, because he kept my commandment and my statutes in that day. So he kept us in the day that God blessed him, near the end of his life. That's what we're talking about. Verse 35, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. Correction, and will give it unto the 10 tribes. So let's read that whole verse again. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. But the correction is, but I will take the kingdom out of his son's hands, and will give it unto the 10 tribes. So note the difference there as we continue. Verse 37 says, and I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shalt be king over Israel. Correction. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shall be king over Israel. So, that's not a big change. Just change shalt to shall. But, let us see, verse 38, we have this. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and wilt walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. Correction. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and wilt walk in my ways, and do right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, in the day that I blessed him, I will be with thee, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and give Israel unto thee. So again, if you are as righteous as David was when I blessed him. But then 39, this is the best part. King James says, and I will for this afflict the seed of David, but not forever. But, Joseph Smith, and for the transgression of David, and also for the people, I have rent the kingdom. And for this I will afflict the seed of David, but not forever. In other words, David got a promise that his seed would always sit on the throne of Jerusalem. But the dividing of the kingdoms is not just because of Solomon, but it is the accumulation. David polluted the land, and even though he did his best to repent, God gave him a blessing for that. But the judgment still had to be passed. And when Solomon compounded the error, God said, the time has come. Now we will divide the kingdom. But also, remember, it is significant that in the Joseph Smith translation, the kingdom, the 10 tribes, is not given to Jeroboam. It is given, the northern kingdom is given to the 10 tribes. And Jeroboam only gets to be king as long as he is righteous. But the 10 tribes, they are the northern kingdom. It's not Jeroboam, it is the tribes. I find that very significant as well. And finally, on a final note, remember, God told Solomon that he would give the kingdom to his servant. And when Solomon finds out that Jeroboam is the one that is going to be the king of the 10 tribes, he tries to have him killed. This is the final fall of Solomon. Just like Saul trying to kill David, Solomon tries to kill Jeroboam. He has fallen to the point of murder, and he does not repent. That's the final fall of Solomon. Anyways, we will leave that here, and we'll read the last few verses of chapter 11, as well as the last few verses of 2 Chronicles chapter 9 in the next video. So we will see you then.